Welcome to another Christmas in July video. And I decided to record the introduction outside because it's such a beautiful summer morning here in North Carolina. You will see a lot of bees buzzing around me, don't worry about that. You'll probably hear the cicadas in the background, but I just wanted to share with you this beautiful day as I tell you what's my next project. The first Christmas in July video that I share with you, I decided to make it in July because of time. You will need a lot of time to finish the Christmas ornaments, and I'll leave that link in the description box. This one is more for weather reasons. Most of this project, or at least a good portion of this project, will be done outdoors. This project was inspired by a previous project that I had done even before I had a YouTube channel. So I just have a couple of pictures. It is a wood palette Christmas card display. And it was so cute that I wanted to replicate it. Also, I have this beautiful French calendar, and I saw this Eiffel Tower with holly and berries, and I decided to pair those two inspirations together and create something wonderful for you. So stay with me and let me show you how to make this French country chic Christmas card display. That's a lot of C's. Let's look at the inspiration piece. I no longer have it because I use it for other events and it weathered down. But you can see that it's a smaller wood palette. And I looked for one, and as I was searching for a wood palette, I came to the realization that when I do a project that I want to share with you, I want to make it as easy and affordable as possible, so you don't have to spend hours looking for the supplies or spending a lot of money. And if you need a wood palette, that's a little bit impractical, because first of all, you have to go searching for one. And I got to thinking, what can I replace a wood palette with? And I came up with the idea of just a sign, a seasonal sign. And since I'm doing this right after the 4th of July, Hobby Lobby had several good options. So these are 75% off right now, $25 plus 75% off. It's a good price. I was gonna look for something in Lowe's, but this is what I'm looking for. Even that one is a cute one. You can do the back. That way you can have one for the 4th of July, but at the back you can use it for Christmas. I will need one of these. However, the size of the signs they had, they were either too big or too small. I did see great options on the unfinished wood section. They were not too pricey, but at the same time, the idea was to use a wood palette with most of you. If you get one, you can get it for free, or at least just for a couple of dollars. And then I went to Lowe's, and I went into the fencing section where they have the wood for all the fence, and that's very, very affordable. $364, $208. Okay, you can't beat $208. That's a great price. I like to put the wood on the floor so I know it's straight. I ended up buying 2 of the 6-foot boards. I wanted at least 3 feet, which I'm almost getting, except for this little tip. You see that? So I figured out I have 71 inches, and that gave me 35.5 and 2 decimals. I wish this was centimeters and meters instead of inches and feet, but you do the measurements and you'll be okay if you measure twice. And I measure each section to make sure we have 4 equal parts. I'm actually only using 3. I don't want it that wide. I mark everything on the wrong side. That way it's nice and clean in the front. So my husband could have done this job with his power tool, cut this wood in just a couple of minutes. But I wanted to do it myself for 2 reasons. Number 1, he's not home. But most importantly, I wanted to make sure that you can do this at home as well. If you don't have power tools, if you have a regular handsaw, yes, it is going to take more time. I also understand that it's hard sometimes to get a wood pallet of the size that I showed you in the pictures. So this is a great alternative. If for some reason you can't cut this by hand, or you don't feel like cutting this by hand, buy yourself a sign already made and use the other side. This will need some sanding. We have one. I need to remove the tip of the other one and the other cut. Now for this one, since I'm only gonna use 3 boards, I'm gonna use the bottom, that way I save myself that little extra cut. So 1, 2, 3 cuts. Okay, I have my 3 parts. Gonna use the cut areas in the same direction. Okay, pretty good measurements. I'll just have to decide which one of these 3 boards go better together. Now I need to go find something for the back. 2 of them. I think I have some real wood pallets that we have cut down to start the fire. So let me see if I have anything on that size. If you see this weird tree, I'm not growing plastic. I'm trying to keep the squirrels from eating the apples, and it does work. I put the apple inside of a strawberry container when they started to grow, and that way I can have apples. Okay, here we go. Do you see this pile? Okay, I want the 2 prettiest ones. Let's see, this is 17.5. I don't want to do any more cutting. Let's see if I can find something small. No, it is 15.5. Okay, 15.5. Okay, let's see. Perfect. And the funny thing is, my husband should be home within like 20 minutes. But hey, I did it by myself. I'm sanding all the sides. I wanted it a little bit more weather look, and I don't want to get splinters, so I'm going to sand especially the areas that I cut with my professional handsaw. I want this to be a chic, kind of antique-ish, like it's been in our family for generations. So this is gonna be the side that I'm going to paint. So we need to flip this over to do a mirror image, so I can put the back of the woods. Okay, let's line them up. Now I need to put the screw to hold that glue until it dries. So we need to find a screw that is long enough to reach from one side of the wood to the other side. I don't want it to go through. Okay, the moment of truth. Ready? Very, very good. Yay! As you can see, I decided to try the technique I was going to use in the leftover piece of wood. The first one here on the top, I apparently either didn't let it dry too long, and that was regular Elmer glue, white school glue, and I think I also used too much water. Then the bottom two ones, you can see I got good results with both. Remember, this is not for a crisp look. If you really want a crisp look, get the transfers, get a stencil, but I like both of them. Now let me explain to you what I have here. In here, I use chalk paint because she recommended, and I'll put the link in the description box, that chalk paint is the best. This is regular acrylic paint. This is the best method. This is the one that you just let it dry for 3 minutes and then you kind of peel the paper off and spray the acrylic paint. This is the one she recommends to dry overnight. I didn't do that. I let it dry, I will say, for 5-6 hours. I'm going for the faded look, so I think I'm gonna use this one. It's a little bit greener in the color, like it's more vintage. I'll leave both links of the ladies, they're very good, in the description box. I will call this long method because you gotta let it dry overnight or at least a few hours, or quick method with acrylic spray paint. Now this is my favorite part because this is when I get to create. I need to use this stencil. I'm gonna have the ivy in here. If you look at my inspiration picture, it has an ivy in this corner. So Tahiti blue or Bahama blue, probably Tahiti blue. I like that blue, but it's a little bit too dark. I need to lighten it a little bit. I want it to be just on the background, barely there. So let me add some white because I want it barely there in the background. That's pretty, very pretty. This is before sanding. I'm going to sand before I even put the Eiffel Tower, which is the biggest part of this project. I printed the Eiffel Tower as big as I could, keeping in mind that the bottom of the Eiffel Tower is wider, so this is the biggest I can do with an 11 by 8.5, 11.5 by 8, whatever it is. So the bottom dictated the tallness of the tower, but it works great for the type or size of sign I have. Now I'm gonna cut it and glue it together. I just have to mix and match so it looks like a continuous tower. I'm trying to put the least amount of glue I can, just in case. Again, I put very little. I just need to hold the pieces together until I put it on the board. This is the part that I'm a little bit concerned because I don't want a crooked Eiffel Tower. It is an Eiffel Tower and not the Leaning Tower of Pizza. So I'm just gonna put a couple of marks because once I have the Mod Podge, it will be hard. I'm just doing 2 corners like this, like this. They're barely be visible, but I will have a better chance of lining it up once I have the glue. I don't want to have to do that later on. Now I'm going to put a good coat of Mod Podge just in one side. We don't want it too wet because then the ink is gonna start getting runny. But we wanna make sure that every area is covered well. Okay. This is messy. It's messy and I'm concerned. I'm glad I made those marks because this is so fragile at this point. Just gonna lay it and fix it. See how the ink is coming off? Okay. What I'm going to do now is getting the bubbles out. I got some wrapping plastic. I just want to make sure it has a good contact with all the wood. Now we have to do the patient part, which is to wait. But it's a good time because I gotta work on the holly that is gonna go now in this area. I went to the computer and found a holly and berry branch that I like, and I printed on regular computer paper, and then I decided, was this size good? This was too big, so I had to scale it down. And I have this pair of scissors. They're so cute, but they have like a bended tip, and that really helps when you have to do cutting that has a lot of curves. I don't know what this is originally supposed to be used for. If you know, leave that in the comment section, but this is too big. So I have this one. That's how I printed the first time, and then I reversed the image because I wanted to see how this looks exactly. Remember, when you're gluing this, you're gonna glue this the other way around. Yes, technically you can see it, but I wanted to have a better look of how the end result is going to be. So I fixed that by printing 2 copies of the same holly branch, but I flipped the mirror, I flipped the image, and now I can set it. Once I know how I like it, I will remove this one and put the Mod Podge in the bottom. And that's how I'm going to know how I like it exactly. So I decided this is what I like. Now remember, I'm gonna have the words Merry Christmas in French in here probably, or maybe in here. So I don't wanna cover this too much. I am going to mark a little bit and overlap it. That way I know where this is supposed to go. Let me do this part. We can always sand that, but once you put the glue, it's hard to move this. So I wanted to know where that one goes, and here, and here. Now, for this one, I actually need to remove the top. I think I moved it a little bit. And I need to cut the excess, because remember, we are going to put glue and eventually rub off all the excess paper, so we don't want excess paper. So I'm using Mod Podge. I want to be as close as possible to the area where I am going to be transferring this, because this is regular computer paper. I don't want to put too much because you run into the problem of maybe scraping some of the ink. wanted to do this on top of the Eiffel Tower to make it more similar like that. Then you will have to wrap that off, and I'm not ready to do that yet. Let this dry. Hopefully I can do the title page today. This is the part where you put your word or lettering. I chose to print Merry Christmas. I think it's pronounced Joyeux Noël. I don't know. Spanish, Feliz Navidad, Merry Christmas in English. The main thing in here is that you flip your wording, because if you don't flip it when you do your next step and remove the paper, this is where you're gonna be left behind. So you need to do a mirror image. For this part, I decided to put a tape, and then I'll remove it as I glue each part. I don't need to separate the O and the E in this letter because the gap is not that big as in here. Now we're gonna let it dry. It's time for the magic to happen. Find yourself in a very comfortable place because you're gonna be here for a while. You don't wanna rush this step because you can ruin all the hard work you have done. In fact, I practiced first in a piece of wood that I had. So this is a process that you don't wanna rush. I have a refreshing drink. I'm gonna listen to a podcast, and you need some kind of cloth. I use, to be honest, a paper towel and extra water for my fingers. I am going to be here for a while. And make sure it's a place that you don't mind the paper is gonna fall, because you're gonna have a lot of little pieces of paper going everywhere. I have a paper towel that I have lightly wet in here. I put some water in there. And I am going to work in sections. So the first thing I'm gonna do is wet it until I see the picture coming through. It's probably gonna dry. If it dries, you can wet it more. And you gotta make sure your fingers are a little bit wet, and then you start rubbing. And as you're rubbing, the paper is gonna come off. Now, again, I'm not a master at this technique, so I am going to take my time in doing this. I prefer to have less paper come off than too much, so you can see the Eiffel Tower taking shape right before your eyes. Okay, so I'm done with the Eiffel Tower. Now I'm gonna start in the berries, the holly branches. Let me wet this paper first to prep it. Well, I had to move because the sun is moving closer to me. I'm under the trees now. Okay, so I just discovered something by mistake. I wanted to erase this line, and I said I'm gonna try it in one area because I can sand it, What I'm doing is I'm leaving a lot of the paper behind. I thought that I was doing something good by not taking everything off, but what happens is this cloudiness is not because I removed the ink, it's because I did not remove the paper. I am very happy with how is this turning out to be. I have to fix the letters a little bit and sand it, and then I'll spray paint it with a coat of acrylic sealer, and that should keep it safe. And while this dries, I am going to work on the clips for the Christmas cards or recipe cards or pictures. This is the part where I am going to embellish some clothespins. I have just some ones that you can finish yourself. I looked through what I have, and I have these pretty ones with the bows, but doesn't go much with the style I want to. So I am going to sacrifice them and use the other side. I am going to paint them white. And then I looked through my old jewelry box. Nothing is expensive here. So I decided to use this bracelet that fell apart and this one as well, and use them for the cards. These were too big for me. You see, that's a little bit too big. I spray painted the cloth pins white and then I sanded them a little bit. Now what I did is I am cutting velvet ribbon to hot glue. I realized that the jewels look so much better on the red velvet. And if you notice, most diamonds, jewels are always displayed on black velvet. Here's the last one. Now I gotta make sure that all of these clothespins, and this is such a hard word for me to say, are facing the same way. I don't want one to have the jewel there and the other one in there. So let's make sure they're all facing the same way. There we go. And I think I'm going to do it right here. That's gonna look very pretty. So here we go. That is gonna be a grand one. Maybe this should be cute for the first person that sends you a Christmas card. They get the special one. Okay, and now this other four. There we go. And I will need this to embellish it as well. Once you have your clothespins ready, I'm gonna put them on the sign, but I don't know yet what cards am I gonna get, so I don't wanna commit myself. Maybe in the future I don't wanna use it for this. So what I'm doing right now is using double-sided tape, cutting them in very thin strips, and that's the way I am going to secure them to this sign. I'm not gonna put anything heavy, so that's why this is no problem to do it this way. And I made myself a very high-tech spacer, and I am going to put it right there. So I remove the backing of the double-sided tape. I have given you some inspiration and ideas for you to create something wonderful this Christmas. And if you haven't done so, please remember to subscribe and like this video. You do not know how much I appreciate knowing someone is watching the content that I'm creating, and it encourages to even make more videos. So remember to do that. It's hard to film when you have bees buzzing around you.